Morning everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally?
Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me. Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
Round 16, and with the margins getting finer and finer, there was no better time last time out for Kalle Kavisto to dominate with a lights-to-flag performance. That being said, the Irishman Tom Daly has built up a buffer margin thanks to his mid-season form, and will need to rediscover said form to keep the Finn at bay. So no better place then than one of the true great originals of iRacing, a place known like the back of the hand. It's Lime Rock Park with chicanes in play with the Sunday Drivers' Cup, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's action. I'm Jake Sperry and joining me here is Ossian Puhaka. Ryan Bauer is on the cameras for this one and he's using the cameras provided by Dougie Beard. iRacing and Lime Rock go hand in hand like peanut butter and jelly. So let's head out to our track guide to learn about the bread and butter of iRacing's Lime Rock Park.
Welcome to Lime Rock Park. Located in the northwest corner of Connecticut, this unassuming little track has garnered a surprisingly passionate following. Its unique aspects create a circuit not only full of character, but consistently challenging even to modern race cars. While it has 4 different possible layouts, on the classic version, only 7 corners are split along a 1.5 mile track with just a single one of them turning left. Though simple in appearance, most drivers will tell you that trying to be fast here is anything but. The run down the front stretch into Big Bend offers pretty much the only viable passing spot, but it's a double apex right-hander which lures drivers into taking it too fast. The uphill is also scary quick considering its lack of runoff and can sometimes cause cars to get airborne over its crest. Then, on the opposite end, the downhill sends cars diving into a quick sweeper which requires a good exit speed in order to defend or attack back into the first corner. Modern racing mostly uses the more recently built chicanes, especially at the uphill. But one of the most unusual facts about this track is that the races are never held on Sunday. Due to a legal agreement with a nearby church, events must take place on Fridays and Saturdays. The confines around this place are tight, the passing opportunities are few, and mistakes are usually punished with race-ending damage. With most other road courses now being built with upwards of 3 and 4 miles in length, this track stands out. But in an age of multi-million-dollar facilities and flashy buildings, this quaint small circuit manages to keep fans coming back with its intimate and grassroots setting.
So there is a look at what Lime Rock Park has to offer, and it is one of the truly unique circuits out here, Ossian, when you consider that this holds a level in United States motorsports as a track which only has a handful of left-hand corners. It still manages to produce itself as one of the great bastions of learning craft when it comes to a racetrack.
Absolutely, Jake. It's one of those tracks which looks very simple if you look at it from map like this, but it's actually far, far more difficult than it looks. Even with the little Mazdas, it can be very difficult to master those undulations, those elevation changes, going over the humps, going over the blind corners. And whoever can find the most courage and the most attitude in this one is going to enjoy the victory. It really, I can't emphasize it enough how much guts it takes to reach for glory.
I'll tell you what, it's 1.5 miles long, which means it's basically a cookie cutter oval at this point in time. It really is a fantastic circuit to go and cut your teeth at as you try and make things happen. But speaking of those who are trying to make things happen, let's look at the championship overall. And it was a 2-point swing last time that came in. So Kalle Kavisto comes out then of Rudskogen with a 2-point advantage over Tom Daly. Stefan Alderding and Jordan Svetanov are still in the mix at 25 and 36 points behind. There are drop rounds to consider as they go through, but there is still a really good battle on at the front. The front four still in with a championship hope. Michael Elliott is currently 5th in the championship ahead of Stephen Orrell, Xavi Lopez and Sander Vara in 8th position outright. Willem van Rassel currently holds on to 9th place, just beating out Brett Ride at this point by 10 points. So 9th and 10th. Also something worth keeping an eye out on here today. But Ozzy, what about the teams?
What about them? 1P Motorsports in the lead, tied with positive Delta Motorsports. Let's see if their Delta is negative to the 2nd place after this one is done and dusted. iRacing Netherlands in 3rd place, keep that Dutch flag flying high. Spirit 14 Racing in the 4th place. Kinda Sus Racing, kinda 5th. Simtech Racing in 6th place. TGR in 7th. 2G Parts and Equipment Racing in 8th, 10th. Still my favorite team name of all time, Dairy Scary Racing and Chief Racing rounding out that top 10. Are you afraid of cows, Jake?
I am not, and I do love the old Mad Cow Sim Racing team. That is one of the favourite teams of sim racing that we had, Australian-based team, and I believe them and Dairy is Scary will prop up our cow-based teams for the day. Ireland lead, though, the Nations Cup. They've got a 12-point advantage over Finland. As things stand, the Netherlands currently find themselves in 3rd, just 28 points back, with the United Kingdom in 4th position. Bulgaria have been propped up very nicely by Jordan Svetanov. They find themselves 5th, with Spain just behind 6 points in 6th. South Africa made a good jump up to 7th last time out, with the United States in 8th. Brazil currently in 9th, and Portugal rounding out the top 10. So the battle of the Portuguese-speaking countries for 9th and 10th position. Qualifying is currently underway. Open qualifying, 10 minutes to put a time together, and currently it is a massive 105.7 from Stefan Alderding that has the front of the field sorted. But here is Kalle Kavisto looking to try and improve as Eric Couradon moves up into 2nd position. We'll see what Kavisto can do over the line. This one just a gearing up sight lap, an 8.8. So just gearing up, trying to cool the tyres off, get back on the power for this. An important lap going through the big bends, turns 1 and 2.
Absolutely, and we'll have to see how he fares with this lap. He's got a relatively clear track ahead of him. Of course, traffic always an issue in a track as short as this is. Peter Reed a couple of car lengths ahead, about 50 meters, and then you got Sven Lemans and Kalle Rantanen as well going through the chicane right now, so he should have a clean ride home. And of course, these Mazdas, one of the things we don't really talk enough about, how much draft these Mazdas make, Jake. It's for anyone who's driven these in one of the longer circuits, maybe at like a Nürburgring, like even in Nordschleife, or something like maybe Road Atlanta here in North America, they know how much speed you can gain by driving behind someone, and he's gonna enjoy that speed going to the main straight.
Absolutely is, and this is going to be the perfect slingshot if this lap doesn't work. So you got Delemans and Peter Reed in front, Kavisto over the line. That's a 105.8, good enough to jump to 2nd position, just ahead of Michael Elliott, who had jumped up into 3rd place. So some important qualifying times coming in at this point. So it's pretty much keep your eyes everywhere for who is where and who is finding some pace. And there is one noticeable name that I can't seem to find here on the qualifying list at this moment in time. That is Tom Daly, who I don't believe is here today. So a free shot for Kalle Kavisto to get things going. Michael Elliott getting it wrong through that outer chicane that they go through, the penultimate section of track out there, and extended as we look at Eric Couradon, who is looking to try and pilot that French car forward. Had a screen freeze over at the Rudskogen circuit, so that's why his race ended, but certainly looking for good pace, but no Tom Daly, and that's big for the championship.
Yes, one slight correction, Jake. Mazda is actually a Japanese car.
Yes.
Regardless, it is a very French-looking car. I will give you that much. It
I meant
even
French
has
driver.
Yes, and it also has the French flag painted on the side, so that is very much understandable. David.
Well, actually, here's a question: was that sim car manufactured in France, Ossian?
That's a good question. I think it was actually manufactured in United States of America.
These are all American Mazdas.
Yeah.
There we go.
Mad those Americans. But I think just like with the cow teams, it's a bit of a moot point.
It is very much a bit of a moot point there, and you get your one per stream. David Geddes then, at this moment, trying to pilot up through 9th position right now on a 106.5, and I am surprised to see so much of a gap out there in this field. It's about a 1/10.5 to improve past Xabi Lopez out there, but Geddes here will have a very good driver in front of him to sort of learn off of. Sander Vara is going to be massive in terms of that, because Vara is 7th overall in the number 7 car. So David Geddes is probably the perfect driver driving under the Haggerty Bridge and through that final corner, that west bend, to get that line to the front stretch. He's got the perfect idea for it, but Geddes is going to dive for the pits. That lap time not good enough, and he's going to get a new fresh set of boots to go out with inside the final 2.5 minutes.
Yep, and we jump on board with Sandovar. Let's see how the Dutchman will handle this treacherous circuit. You can see how much he's working the wheel there, and that's no coincidence. That's just that is something you have to kind of do with this car, because it's all the time you're fighting for the grip. You're fighting to get that car turned in just right, and you have to really utilize all of the circuit and then some. It is such a momentum circuit. It's not only a difficult circuit, surprisingly so, but it's also a momentum circuit. To keep as much speed as possible through those corners is quintessential, even more so than usual. With the lack of power in this car, the uphills, the twists and turns, and the high average speed, even broken up by these chicanes. I'll tell you what, I do miss the massive run down to the last corner. It's good here, but it's even better when there's no chicanes, but I can understand why they're there.
I can understand as well, because it gives more of an overtaking opportunity coming through the uphill chicane over the line. It's going to be a 107.4, so no improvement for the Spirit 14 driver. Kind of sus racing. Pedro Marimon looking to try and jump up from 13th position, has just in front of Mackenzie Mann, so they're 13th and 14th working together on track. It's going to be a 26-lap race today. Everyone's on the same setup as well, Ossian, so this is a fixed race. You've got to make sure that you are absolutely on it like a car bonnet.
Yeah, exactly. So you have to be on it from the get-go. You can't really sleep. You can't afford to take the first 10 minutes or so easy. No, you have to be on it, and you have to be aggressive right from the get-go. Even if that means kind of sus racing drivers have to be doing some venting after the race. I'm sorry about that. I'm really sorry. That was my second for the stream, and I'll stop now. Pedro Marimon 106.8 does not improve, stays in 14th place.
There'll be a question of who's going to be the last driver to the line then, as the checkered flag due to come out. All drivers are allowed to finish any laps they start once the checkered flag drops, as Michael Elliott makes his way towards that final section. It looks like Stefan Olderding is going to be one of the last drivers to get a lap in, which means that the checkered flag drops here at Lime Rock Park. Alvaro Rodriguez will dive into the pit. So this too of Elliott and Ride. Ride's going to go pit side, but it will be a drive for the line for Michael Elliott, who needs just a 1/10 of a second to jump up into pole position. Looking for something, finds nothing. And that lap won't be enough. Can Cali Cavisto just behind find the improvement? 105.8 at the moment over the line. It is a 106.2. It's not enough. Stays in second position. Is anyone else going for it? Stefan Olderding, of course, one of the last drivers coming to the line, is going to be someone who would feel that he is safe at this moment in time. No improvements from the likes of Pedro Marimon and co. Peter Reed, I think, is going to go for the line and see if he improves on 19th. Olderding now making his way towards the final corner out on circuit. Reed does improve, but not position. Olderding, I think, for everyone who is out there is safe out there on track, and some incredible racing going on through the qualifying session. That will give us an opportunity to take ourselves to the starting grid then for this one at Lime Rock Park, and it is the number 51 who still has a shot of winning this championship and is going to have to try and work that from the front. Stefan Olderding, 105.727, a 10th and a 3rd clear of Kalle Kavisto, number 1, the reigning champion, in 2nd position. Michael Elliott, he finds himself in 3rd with a Jordanin Svetanov in 4th position, keeping very much in range with Patrick Alders in 5th and Eric Corridon in 6th position. Sandavara will qualify the car in 7th with Xabi Lopez in 8th. Row 5 consisting of David Geddes and Rene Zegela.
Indeed, and in 11th place you got Victor Oliveira and Brett Wright in 12th, William Van Russell 13th, Pedro Marimon 14th, Mackenzie Mann and Alvaro Rodriguez in the next row. Then you got Bruno Albino 17th, Kalle Rantanen 18th, Peter Reed 19th, and Martin Schmidt, not to be confused with the ex-ski jumper Martin Schmidt, in 20th position. Sven Dallemans, Arturo Davila, Stephen Orell and David Mitchell rounding out the 24-driver field, Jake. It's gonna be a good one.
No Leon Fortes is here today, unfortunately, so as they grid themselves up, they get ready. For those who are looking right now at the track conditions, it is 84 degrees Fahrenheit, 29 degrees centigrade out there. It is ideal conditions for racing. And for those noticing David Mitchell in the number 69 car, firstly, that's not number Wang, first and foremost, and secondly, he will be looking to try and move forward and give himself as much of a good race as he possibly can. For those drivers at the front, Olderding, Kavisto and Svetanov are the big 3 to keep an eye out on for the championship. They're going to be hoping for great performances. For the likes of Michael Elliott, he is stage hunting today. He is looking for a victory if he possibly can. This is an important run towards turn numbers 1 and 2, the big double right-handers. So having that inside line, drivers on the right-hand side of the circuit, left-hand side of your screen, is really important to have, because you have the opportunity to defend, but you don't have the rubbered-in racing line to get that better jump off of the start. They will have themselves just a small wait longer. Mackenzie Mann is going to be the last driver to take to the starting grid, and once Mann is on the grid or decides to start from pit lane, the lights procedure will start and we'll get ourselves ready for racing action. 26 laps today, and with a lap time of 1 minute and 6 seconds, that's going to go in the blink of an eye. So Mackenzie Mann will have to start this one from pit lane today. So here comes the light, and for Stefan Olderding, he's got a job to hold back the likes of Kavisto and Elliott. Green flag in the air, and we are racing here from Lime Rock Park. It was a good start by Michael Elliott. He's going to close up on Kalle Kavisto here in 2nd position as they go towards turn 1. Hits the brakes pretty early, though, going through, just covering off a Jordanin Svetanov behind, leaving life a little bit easy. We've already got dramas off in the background as there's a handful, a gaggle of cars who are off the road. So dramas already early on. Looks like Victor Oliveira and Alvaro Rodriguez both involved as they now run through the right, and someone else going off the road. That's Olderding. That's Olderding, the race leader, in trouble. And around goes Michael Elliott. He's in the wall.
Yep, and Olderding and Ellis, and we'll have to wait to see a replay of that one, but that's the worst possible thing to happen so early on, and it was such a simple contact as well, just a tiny bit of contact, but that's enough to send you around in first lap. They're finding the chicanes very difficult, and as a result of that, look at the front of your field. Kalle Kavisto is saying thank you very much. He's now in his own time zone, pretty much. I can't believe he's pulled out a gap of about 10 seconds.
Well, it's not quite 10, but it's going to feel like it at this point in time. Svetanov with a cone on the front is going to be in trouble. Olderding's in the wall, but now at this point, it is Kalle Kavisto who leads this field outright. Patrick Alders will be in 2nd position, and there's going to be a handful of drivers who are going to be taking the pits. 5 seconds on the opening lap. Sandavara is up to 3rd. Brett Wright is up 8 places into 4th position. And it's worth noting there's a championship point on the line for the driver who makes the most places in this race. And that is big, because Arturo Davila started in 20 seconds up to 9th. 13 drivers have made it through the opening lap without having to make a pit stop.
Yeah, and that's the kind of mess that Lime Rock Park can produce even with these little cars. It's not really the track's fault, but it is the kind of circuit, as you can see on the replay here, where you can easily run out of space. You can see here what happened what happened here on lap number 1, basically cutting through the chicane, and a 3-car incident which resulted then to Stefan Alderding going out of the circuit. You can see a better view here. Just getting sideways. Kalle Kivisto able to avoid him. Unfortunately, the cars behind just getting tangled up in that mess, really losing control already, taking avoiding action. But it can be so difficult with cold tires to find that grip once again. You're anxious to get going, eager to get going, but you can't find the grip, and there you can see just having to straight line that chicane is Alderding and taking new tires, taking lengthy repairs, still out there on the pit lane just in front of the commentary booth.
Yeah, and that's the issue that you have, is that you find yourself with a lot of damage and you have to try and get the car back to save towing time out there. Pedro Marimon in 5th position. Looking in front of him is Brett Ride in the 1P Motorsports car, and in front of him Sandavara, who's currently in 3rd. So these drivers trying to work early, and this is a chance for those drivers who normally find themselves in the middle of the pack here, Ossian, to jump up and make a name for themselves. Races like these are the ones where they get a chance to shine. Brett Ride takes a very narrow line and a huge kick of oversteer there for Pedro Marimon. It's so difficult, that section of the track, because you have to turn and brake ever so slightly to make sure that you actually get yourself turned in for the very tight second part of the chicane.
Yeah, and he almost scan deflected in there, like getting that rear end kicked out like Juha Kankkonen circa 1993, and able to survive that. But your point, absolutely correct. Midfield drivers normally, well, they are midfield drivers for a reason. They fight around 10th, 11th, 12th place, there or thereabouts. Of course, midfield as a concept is quite vague, and we often talk about a midfield being something from anything from 5th to 15th place. But yeah, they have a chance here to make a name for themselves, but there's also a lot of drivers coming from the back who have suffered in lap number 1, but maybe not having to take an extra pit stop. Maybe they have pace, like Tsvetanov, for example, 40 seconds behind. We have 22 laps left. Let's see how many positions he can make. And let's see where we'll end up positions-wise, because there's going to be a whole lot of fast drivers just looking to salvage something, anything out of their Lamrock Park race.
Svetanov would absolutely love to gain a couple more places in this one. I was going to go with Esa-Pekka Lappi as a driver, as Kavisto sets the fastest lap then of the race with a 106.259, stretches the gap out in front to nearly 7 seconds at this moment. Sandavara still in 3rd position. Looking behind him, he's got the 1P Motorsport car, Brett Ride, the kind of sus car, Pedro Marimon at this point. There are other drivers to keep in mind throughout this opening stage of the race, and one of them is going to be the number 9 of Xavi Lopez, someone to definitely keep an eye out on. Is back down in 7th, or is up to 7th at this point, a gain of just the 1. And so as we take a driver's eyes perspective from him, he's got a few seconds to work to get to Willem van Rassel. It's about 3 seconds for him, but he's someone who on his day can be right up there at the top of the field.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to see how he tackles this challenge. Willem van Rassel was higher up the field earlier on, but then has been kind of struggling these last couple of laps. So ideally, Xavi Lopez should make quick work of him once he catches up and gets past René Zegelar, who is the other orange car. The orange car right in front of him, the Dutch car, is René Zegelar, who is a lap behind and is nicely giving way to Xavi Lopez, who can then get on to catching. Let's see the lap times here, actually. Van Rassel 107.5, Xavi Lopez 106.7. That tells a tale.
0.8 of a second over a lap that is as short as this. Really does tell you all you need to know. Marimon all over the back of the 1P car, trying to find a way through on Brett Ride, but Brett's not going to have anything of it. Last time out at Rudskogen, he was really good at defending against a whole slew of drivers. He's really good in that mid-pack and difficult to get through. Svetanov on cue sets the fastest lap of the race at 106.0. That's also important because that is, funnily enough, also a bonus point in this series.
Points for you, points for me, points for everybody here in this series. I actually love it. We have so many things to keep an eye on. Points for the hardest charger, points for the fastest lap as well. Svetanov can now, well, not quite see, but can feel that maybe he has a chance of catching up to Davila and Man. The gap is 12 seconds, and that is very doable if he keeps that kind of pace up. But we are still following Lopez, and we are following one Russell to turn number 1. Actually, we are watching Sander Var and Brett Wright, excuse me, 3rd and 4th place. Kinda on equal pace, and it's very impressive how well Brett Wright is doing. Mind you, he started 12th in this race. He's challenging for a podium.
He very much is at this point in time. I wonder if we can get a replay of what's happened to the 15 of David Geddes going through the final corner, as that's what happens.
I cursed
when he gets slightly too deep through. Marimon can't find a way through, and as such holds back and waits in position there. So that was just a case of slightly going too far wide and unable to be capitalized on at that point in time. They both drop ground as they go through to Sandavara. This is what happened to David Geddes. It was just a little bit behind that through the final corner where the issue befalls itself, and they can see that's Kalle Rantanen in trouble, who I think was trying to get out of the way of the Canadian.
Yeah, very much was, and didn't quite succeed. You can see it here. Kalle just going a little bit too wide and just spinning right in front of David Geddes, and that's so unfortunate because you're just trying to be kind, essentially, going to the outside. But here's a tip to all new drivers who are thinking of being kind. Don't. Just let the driver make the pass. Or if you want to absolutely positively let somebody through on the final corner, take the inside line on the exit, because the car's gonna fan out wide. That's the natural racing line, but just don't make a mistake like that. I know it's an accident. I know it's something you don't do on purpose, but it's you don't want to take that risk of spinning out in front of anybody, and you don't really want to go out of your way to be kind, because you can often cause more trouble that way, as funny as it sounds.
Yeah, you certainly can. And Mackenzie Mann here is looking in front of him at Arturo Davila, and I wouldn't want to be behind. Alvaro Rodriguez, Martin Schmidt, Michael Elliott, David Mitchell and Stefan Olderding are all racing for position a lap down behind. Now this is exactly where lap traffic rules are tested to their limit. 5 incredibly quick drivers, and they've got 2 slower drivers in front who are battling for position and will not yield to let the lap cars who are quicker go through.
No, absolutely not, and they shouldn't, because there is a good battle going on actually between Davila and Man. Man looking to the outside, Mackenzie Mann, and let's see if they can make that pass happen. They are certainly ahead on the braking zone, and yeah, Davila has no chance. Whoa, that was Michael Elliott. Excuse me, what was that line to the inside? The most insane move I have seen so far in this race. Just coming out of another dimension. Just, hello, I'm a Time Lord.
He didn't make the move stick though, and that's the key. That was amazing. Off went Alvaro Rodriguez as well. So this is the thought process behind Michael Elliott. Here's how you've got to try and think. 2 cars slower. Look, it's breaking markers a whole board less than everyone else. He slows it up, has to get well out of the way as he goes through that, because he's not got that sorted. Maybe a slowdown penalty, but ultimately that was bravery to anything else. And in fact, he's just lost the place then to Stefan Olderding, who has really picked his way through that group without any dramas at all.
Yeah, that was sent without the S, really, for Elliott in that corner into turn number 1. And here's Olderding now trying to get past Arturo Davila. And despite Davila being a lap ahead, I think they'd be clever to let Olderding past here, and that's exactly what happens. Olderding able to brake so much later into turn number 1, and here you can see the difference as we are watching. We are on board Marimon. You could see the difference earlier between a good driver and a great driver. The ability to pick up the correct braking spot, pick up the pass, and make it look so easy.
Marimon up the inside then and into 4th position, getting the move sorted on Brett Wright, who will now have to ride the coattails and use that downhill run through the West Bend to give him the chance to attack on this Sam Posey straight. Looking towards the big bends at turns 1 and 2, back to the inside, searching, but Marimon's later on the brakes. He's still got to try and get that car turned in though. Yellow wheel rims versus red wheel rims, and at the moment it's the yellowy orange that's going to pay off then. Marimon holds on to 4th.
Absolutely does, and Brett Wright should remember that red and green should never be seen, although in this case it's subtle enough to kind of work, but that's enough about fashion. In any case, Brett Wright still in a good position here because there's a 3-car pack. You got Sandoval, you got Pedro Marimon, and you got Brett Wright. And now if Marimon is able to catch up just a little bit more, they can start tussling for the final podium position, and then maybe Brett Wright can be the driver who picks up the pieces and rides home to sunset.
That would certainly be the case. And in the pits is Patrick Alders. From second position, Patrick Alders in trouble. And so that will promote everybody up another position in this race from absolutely nowhere in second position. As he went up through the S's, it looked like he clobbered a massive amount of curb on the underneath, and that has pretty much put his race over and done with. I don't know how that's happened.
Well, the way that happens is in its essence, as you can see in the replay here, you picked the wrong racing line. So he missed the first apex, he was still trying to desperately turn it in on the second apex. That curb is so high, it hops up the car, and that can so easily damage the underbody of the car, the chassis, the suspension. It's not meant to take that kind of hits, or even worse, it can damage the underside of the engine. So you can have an oil leak, and you can have that dreaded message from the spotter, your car is leaking fluid. And immediately as that happened, he knew that was that. And now these guys are promoted, fighting for the second place. Whoa!
That about as close as you can get. Marimon into the back. Brett Wright's going to pick one up for absolutely nothing as he goes through and moves up into third position. Sandavara taking a little hit to the back from Pedro Marimon, and Marimon just lifting out of it, deciding I'm going to just chill for a little bit, let this race continue. So Kalle Kavisto, your race leader by 16.4 seconds at the halfway stage, with Sandavara, Brett Wright and Pedro Marimon second, third and fourth, all of whom being chased down by Xabi Lopez in fifth position. Willem van Rassel has just gone wide through turn one, so Bruno Albino now is up into sixth. Victor Oliveira is now seventh, and Van Rassel is down into eighth place, which leads ninth position to Peter Reid. And Mackenzie Mann at this point is rounding out the top 10, but not for long because Jordan Svetanov's right behind him.
Yep, Svetanov, who had the fastest lap of the race, I think still might have the fastest lap of the race. Now up to 11th place, we are on board with the Bulgarian driver. Not the Bulgarian brute, but the Bulgarian driver nonetheless. And you can see Mackenzie Mann going a little bit wide ahead of him, and that's gonna allow Svetanov to catch up a little bit more. Last time around, Mackenzie Mann 109.0, Svetanov 106.5. That's 2.5 seconds over the course of a single 1.5 mile lap. And that doesn't mean Mackenzie Mann is a bad driver. It just goes to tell about the quality of Jordan Svetanov. And it kind of makes me sad to think where Svetanov could have been had that first lap not happened. But in Finland we have a saying, if cows had wheels, they would be milk trucks.
They would, and that is very, very true. And I tell you what, I want to get a replay of Bruno Albino and Victor Oliveira coming up through the first chicane, because they have had an almighty coming together, which has dropped them way away from Willem van Rassel and co. And it's a really important bit of racing. You can see they were really looking for it. Oliveira to the inside, would get on that inside, and then 2 into 1 over that curb, pretty much helpless, and then they lock fenders on the inside and interconnect, and it takes them a long time to get themselves disconnected from each other before they can continue their race, Ossian.
Yeah, that's the racing equivalent of a French kiss, where you get stuck with each other and you can't seemingly cut loose, and you both of them losing so much time, gathering damage for sure, because you're gonna have your fenders all bent up. It's gonna affect your straight line speed, it's gonna affect your chassis, your suspension, everything. Even if these cars can take a bit of a beating, it's not too much. These are still light cars, starter level racing cars. They're not meant for fender banging racing, as we can see here. A little bit of a move going on into turn number 1. On the outside is Peter Reid, on the inside Bruno Albino, making the move stick, but screwing up his exit, and there's contact. Once again, Peter Reid getting a little bit anxious on the inside, going into a bit of a space that I'm not sure was quite there, but then Jake there's a lot of good sayings in sim racing about spaces that are not there.
Yeah, there very much are, and there was about 1.01 car widths to try and squeeze through, and that was not quite big enough for Peter E to manifest an overtake on Bruno Albino at that point in time. So patience is going to have to be rewarded a little bit later on, as we are very firmly in the second half of this race, and it is still about these groups that are trying to figure out how to go. Here's your race leader. We haven't really talked about him all race long. Kalle Kavisto, and 5 seconds after the opening lap, he's got 17 of them right now. This is about as Sunday driving gets.
Yeah, he's been absolutely rocking this race. It's been Kalle Kivisto from start to finish ever since lap number 1. It wasn't quite 10 seconds the lead, it was about 5, but still he's been home clear. But he still has to worry about traffic. As you can see here, it can be very unpredictable dealing with drivers who are, let's face it, a lot slower than you. Arturo Davila there, having to brake a lot in the last corner. Yeah, and we got a battle going on here as well. Brett Wright involved.
Yeah, Pedro Marimon up onto the podium, and once again, second time we've seen it from Marimon, working the uphill chicane absolutely fantastically. And you've got to be precise on the brakes, because the moment that you don't have the power up that hill, whereas in comparison to what was the traditional uphill corner beforehand, Ostian, the hill's a lot steeper from this angle, so you have to carry the momentum even more.
Yeah, exactly, and it becomes so important to get that good exit from the previous corner to carry on the speed over the hill, so you can even 1 or 2 kilometers an hour, 1 or 2 miles an hour, they can make all the difference when you have so little power at your use, at your perusal. So it's about these Mazdas, it's all about the momentum, and that's what makes this such a great learner car, because you're learning all the basics of race car driving. What fast race car driving is all about. It's about picking your braking points, picking the correct line through the corner, and keeping up the momentum. Braking as late as possible, absolutely not the fastest way with these cars. Speaking of which,
Pedro Marimon is the hardest charger in the field right now, up 11 spaces from 14th to 3rd position at this point, and he very nearly lost that position by going far too deep into that chicane. He knows that he's got to be wary of Brett Wright, who has been consistent throughout this race, and that's the key. Brett Wright has been driving a very consistent race in 4th position. You've got Sandavara, who's been fantastic in 2nd, just keeping those two behind at an arm's width or an arm's length behind, and this has been crucial in terms of how you build up this race. Other moves going out there. Here is a Jordanin Svetinov. He's got eyes now on Mackenzie Mann, trying to make this pass happen. He's going to have to go the long way around to make this move stick at turn 1. Runs in a little bit too hot though, has to get on the binders to make sure that stops, and is going to need to get another drive off of the exit. Mackenzie Mann right now is pretty much of a rosebush here in this race for Jordanin Svetinov, as he hoped he wouldn't have.
Yeah, so over, under, still not quite able to make it work, and this goes to show you that catching somebody is one thing, passing them is a completely different kettle of fish. But if Svernov can get this done quickly, and that's a big if, then 8 laps to go, he still got Reed 4 seconds ahead of him, you got Albino there 7 seconds ahead, Oliveira 8 seconds ahead, so he still got chances at 7th, maybe even 6th place, realistically 7th with that big battle group there, so he has to be anxious to get that move done, at the same time taking nothing away from Mackenzie Mann, because we talked about it early on, how the lap time was around 109, well here you go, 107.1 previous lap, 108 this time around. However, letting Smirnov pretty much go this time around, but no, into the golf field.
Yeah, that's not where you want to be if you're a Jordanin Svetinov. Michael Elliott has to get on the brakes as well. And this is where Svetinov's overdriving the car, trying to find his overtakes. You get bogged down, you get frustrated. That's when the mistakes start to creep in. Bruno Albino here has got his eyes on Victor Oliveira, wants that 7th position. And this is an important 7th position right now for Bruno Albino, because it would put him plus 10, which if Pedro Marimon falls behind Brett Wright, that's going to be another important position in terms of the hard chargers point. I think they all get a point for Hard Charger if it's tied here, Ossian, and not the case of where you're splitting down points. I do like the idea of splitting points. Imagine if you got a third of a point.
Yes, or a fourth of a point. Imagine if a championship would be decided by 1/4 of a point. It would be like Niki Lauda, eat your heart out with that one. As I've been watching Svetanov out of the in live timing, and Svetanov is having some trouble. Had some run straight through a chicane earlier on. Has now lost 5 seconds to Mackenzie Mann. But here we are focusing on the number 64 car of Albino and the fight that seems to be going on between Bruno Albino and Victor Oliveira, 7th and 8th place. So Albino is about half a second behind, but you can see that both of them have now started to get a handle of this track, to get a handle of this car. That line through the chicane may not be the fastest, you're not taking any risks with the curbs, but it is a consistent and a beautiful line, and that seems to be counting for a lot in this race. Just being able to stay consistent has been so valuable.
It has, and that's why the gap now for Oliveira is actually just extending out over a second, and Albino here is going to struggle to get back. Alda's 13th position right now, and this is Arturo Davila, who hasn't had the pace as the Mexican, but he's got to be a minister of defense right now inside the final 6 laps of this race, is because behind you got Sven Dallemans, who is there also trying to figure it out, and the group 2nd, 3rd and 4th, which will be an even bigger added pressure at this point in time. The Spirit 14 driver will have his Spirit 14 teammate going on the blower. Hey, let me through. I absolutely need to get this gap.
Yep, he absolutely does, and look at them once again side by side through the corners here, through the last chicane there. Patrick Alders and Arturo Davila and Sander Var and Sven Dallemans, and Dallemans is actually 1 lap behind them, yep, and a lot of them lap down, as you mentioned there earlier on, and Sander Var is now probably blinking the headlights if this had the capability, and Arturo Davila sees the message, but Dallemans is going very wide there behind. Ooh, the car went into the fields.
Sven Dallemans very nearly had 2nd position in this race. Out. That's how close it was as they went in towards the opening corner. Xabi Lopez is now closing in on this group, and he's got his eyes on Brett Ride and 4th position here in this race. So with 5 laps to go, there is a real chance that Spirit 14 could have 2 cars on the podium by the end of this race.
There really, really is, and what a result it would be for that team. Spirit 14 really making their mark, and I tell you what, I don't like white and yellow normally on a race car as a combination when it's out there like that, especially such a pale shade of yellow. But that livery works, and they look like a professional outfit. They look like a great outfit, and just as I said about that, Arturo Davila going a little bit wide, thankfully not causing any further issues. But here comes Brett Wright, still trying to catch onto that podium, which is sadly just slipping between his fingertips.
It is. It's just started to creep out now. It's at 2.5 seconds at this point, and you just start to feel that Brett Ride is hoping for a small mistake somewhere inside the final 4 laps of this race. You've still got Xabi Lopez, who's there though, effectively hoping that there's going to be one final twist in this tail to move up an extra 2 positions, but there are no guarantees when it comes to sim racing. At this point, it has been a race led from start to finish by Kalle Kavisto out there at this point, but it is all about 4th at this point, where Brett Ride is going to have to put another defensive showcase on, and with no Tom Daly here, that puts him as the lead 1P car, so a big responsibility to fill today. He's done wonderfully from 12th to get to 4th so far.
He has, and he's been consistent. That one mistake earlier on caused by the commentator's curse, dropping him away from the podium positions, but let's not take anything away from this man. Brett Wright has been excellent today, but he will have to be excellent for 3 more laps. Xavi Lopez is gonna come to him and get to him, and he's gonna come with the force of 1,000 thunderstorms here. Brett Wright going a little bit wide on turn number 1, and that allows Lopez to get closer and closer. They also got some traffic up in front of them, not too much, but just a little bit that could affect this race. But just take a look at Lopez's lines. He's able to stay so smooth and so fast on the exit of the corners. Once again, coming to the chicane here uphill, this is going to be crucial.
Oh, he's too deep. He's too deep. He clatters the red anti-cut curb. Here comes Xavi Lopez looking to move up into fourth position. He's going to have to go the long way around the Wampy car to make this happen. Can he get the turn in? He can, but he's a little bit deep here and open up the exit of the corner. Thank you very much. Xavi Lopez, P4.
Yep, Brett Wright is making that one mistake which screwed up his line for the rest of the lap. That line was ruined for the rest of the lap, and he was just having to play defense from there on out, fighting the car to get it turned into the corner. Well, if you have to fight the car, if you have to wrestle it after missing the entry of the corner, you're gonna be so slow into those straight lines, and all Xavi Lopez had to do there was to bide his time, wait it out, get him on the last exit. Exactly what happened.
Exactly what happened. All those drivers a lap down have had to use one of their unlimited fast repairs here today to get themselves back through, and big for that third place in the championship. Svetanov is right back here with a very, very determined Mackenzie Mann to hold on to the final spot in the top 10. Just 11 drivers currently on the leading lap, and with so few laps, in fact the last lap starting now for Kalle Kavisto, these are some crucial phases here, Ossian.
They absolutely are. One more time he's gonna have to take the 1.5 mile Lime Rock Park circuit with chicanes. Kalle Kavisto here on not quite yet a victory lap, but what must for him feel like an easy night out. As you said earlier on, Jake, it's a Sunday drive for Kalle, and he's gonna extend that championship lead.
He is, but Mackenzie Mann still having to scrap off then Svetanov going through for Kavisto. He's running forward fantastically. They were side by side going through the chicane, and it's going to be turn one once again as they look to try and race this final spot inside the top 10. Massive. Svetanov going to the outside, trying to get this move sorted. Will he be good on the brakes, or will Mann cover him off? Mann's going to cover him off. We'll come back to it in a moment, because Kalle Kavisto will round the final corner at what was the easiest race win he will have of his sim racing career. Dominance as dominance personified. Kalle Kavisto is going to pick up the win at Lime Rock Park. The battle still on for 10th and 11th position as Mackenzie Mann holds that off. Sandavara will come to the line. He'll take second as here comes Svetanov looking at that outside. Can he get a run up the hill? This is where he's got to be so good, and he's got the run he needs, but it's covered. It's covered fantastically, but the door opening up. Contact side by side as they go through. Svetanov needs this top 10 and absolutely will not be denied. Mann's not giving this one up either as they'll come through. It's Marimon third, Xavi Lopez fourth, Brett Wright fifth, and around the outside of the final corner, oh, Mackenzie Mann, take your hat off. What a way to defend this top 10. It's still not over. Mackenzie Mann has just put in an almighty defensive display, and I think he may have just lost it. No, I think he's just got it. No, he's lost it. Oh, he's lost it by 8,000.
8,000ths of a second between Jordan and Svetanov and Mackenzie Mann. Take your hats off. Look at this finish. Get your cameras ready right here. Last ditch move onto the inside, and Jordan and Svetanov is able to take it in the purple number 8. But I tell you what, the purple heart goes out to Mackenzie Mann for that wonderful, wonderful defense. It wasn't always 100% clean. There were some late moves, but in the last lap, you are gonna cover off all the lines. But in the end, it was all for naught. Jake, Kalle Kavisto may have won this race, but I think those two won our hearts.
Absolutely. Well, we said it was a 1.5 miler, quote unquote, a cookie cutter. I think we've made a very nice batch of cookies today with the racing that we've had. Let's step aside for one moment here at the Global SimRacing Channel. We'll be back with post-race coverage after this.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams. Race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to ride around the world.
I'm Mick Claridge, and I'm going to ride around the world on my bike.
My son, he gave me advice at the start of this ride, and he looked at me and just said, "Dad, don't be a moron."
Let me do my animal signal to gain their respect.
How's it going, Sally?
Yeah, I'm alright, Mick. How's it going?
Worse than that bit in Lord of the Rings, where they go into the top and the spiders in the tunnel. I'm just hoping there's a spider at the top of this one to kill me.
Freezing.
And I failed. I moroned up the ride.
It was about as plain sailing as it could be from the front of the field. A victory here today for Kalle Kavisto, but for everybody else, it was a case of you had to dig down deep to find a result today at Lime Rock Park. Kavisto's margin of victory after 29 minutes and 9 seconds was a full 19.4. coming to the line ahead of Sandavara in second position. Pedro Marimon would finish up in third, with Xavi Lopez fourth place overall in what was a very tough race for him to recover back through. Brett Ride would end up with fifth place in the end, with Willem van Rassel finishing sixth ahead of Victor Oliveira in seventh. Bruno Albino would finish off in eighth place, a strong showing from here today, proving that we do in fact talk about Bruno here at the Global SimRacing Channel. Peter Reed would end up in ninth position, with the Jordan Svetinov stealing P10 right at the line.
Indeed, and it's Mackenzie Man dejected in 11th place after that Lionhearty-worthy fight in the last lap to try and hold off Jordan Svetanov. Patrick Alders, the first car, 1 lap down. Eric Corderon as well, 1 lap down. Sven Dalmans 14th. Stefan Alderding 15th. That's a disappointment for our pole sitter today. Arturo Davila 16th. Then it's Rene Zegelar, Michael Ellet, Alvaro Rodriguez, David Mitchell finishing in 20th position. I'm not sure if he was the baddie in first lap, but still ended up 1 lap down. Kalle Rantanen 21st, David Chedes 22nd, Martin Smith 23rd, and Stephen Orell 24th, with Leon Forders sadly never starting this event. I think we're gonna play rock, paper, scissors here with this one, who's gonna interview our race winner. I'm gonna throw it to you, Jack.
Well, I was going to say, let's play rock, paper, scissors. I'll choose rock, but Kalle Kavisto is going to be here with me now. And Kalle, that, after lap 1, seeing Stefan grab the grass through turn 3, has to be the easiest drive you have had in possibly forever.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. It was very close that I didn't hit him. I just managed to tap on the brakes and avoid the contact, and after that I was just, living for the name and driving like a Sunday driver.
Like a name, driving as a Sunday driver. Talk about lap traffic here, because there was undoubtedly a lot around a circuit which is very, very narrow, and a lot of time can be bled very quickly around this place. Just how difficult was it for you to navigate some of the drivers who did fall a lap down in this race, and for you, just how patient you had to be in this one?
It was quite easy. I think everybody knew that the main straight is the best opportunity to let cars go by, so I was just waiting the exit from the last corner and then make my move.
Well, you made your move. You did fantastically. You were very much on the keys, as it were, finding yourself with every opportunity possible. Now, in terms of now moving forward, it's 2 weeks to Oulton Park. How are you looking at that? You, of course, came into here with a championship lead. No Tom Daly here today. Do you see this as another little added blanket of security for you now heading to Oulton?
I don't think it's still pretty much open when we think about drop races. I think Tom Daly has pretty good reserve points there. So even if he missed today the race, and even if he's gonna miss the next race, I think it will still be quite close between the two of us. So I just need to keep my head down and focus on the remaining races.
Well, focus is certainly going to be there. Kalle Kavisto joining us, a victor overall then here today at Lime Rock Park, and made it look very, very easy. Ossian Puhaka is going to be looking at the driver or talking to the driver who finished second overall, that being Sandavara. Well, maybe if we didn't move Ossian away and get ourselves through like that. Ossian, now you have Sandavara.
Yes, I have Sandavara here in the second place. Sander, when you lined up 7th on the starting grid today at Lime Rock Park, did you expect to finish on the podium?
I did not. I wasn't really on pace today, and I actually did my personal best in qualifying, and I ended up 7th. So I was not expecting anything tonight. But yeah, then things can always happen, especially on this new tire model of the MX-5. So it's slippery in the first 2 laps, and I think that I'm not sure what caused the incidents, but it probably had something to do with the incident. So yeah, I was lucky to just drive on by. Although first I hit the back of Patrick Alders, and yeah, then also Patrick made a mistake. So I didn't really have to do a lot for the second place. Only defend my position and make sure that Pedro, who was quicker behind, didn't. Well, he wasn't able to make any moves or anything. So yeah, sweaty, but but a good result.
Absolutely, the result is all that counts in the end. Second place and a whole haul of points for you from Lime Rock Park. Would you agree that this is a surprisingly difficult circuit? Because it certainly seemed difficult for a lot of drivers. How was it for you? Did you find it easier than maybe some others, or did you also have some trouble with those chicanes and such?
Yeah, it's a difficult track, especially now with that new tire model. It's more slippery, and I always have troubles with my brakes, and it's always, I have to always readjust, and these chicanes are just really tricky, both of them. I personally find the braking point for the first chicane the most difficult. But also just to have a good exit and not to have an off track on the second one. That is, you have to be so concentrated to not to make that mistake. And this time I didn't. Normally I do. Other years I also did make those mistakes, and this time I managed to do 26 laps without too many mistakes, let's say.
Well, that was an excellent result, and indeed not too many mistakes here, and that goes to show in a whole haul and a wonderful memory as well. Thank you very much for the interview, Sandavara, and once again, congratulations.
Yeah, okay. I will send the Discord link to Pedro Marimon because he doesn't have it, so hopefully he can still join in time. So if you give me like 2 seconds, hopefully he will receive it.
Okay, 10-4, loud and clear. Thank you, Sander, for the interview. And Jake, meanwhile, we have another driver there out there waiting to be talked to, and who is probably very excited to talk with us after the race he had.
Yeah, we got Bruno Albano here, and Bruno, starting 17th today in this race, were you looking in at the Gentleman iRacing Friends car and thinking about P8 as an opportunity for GIF Racing?
Good evening. No, it was a very difficult race. I was expecting high difficulties to try to run to the incidents that were happening in the beginning, cold tires. The new model of Mazda is more sliding by the rear, and I think we work well the beginning of the race. And we also, with a little of luck and the enthusiasm of some drivers that tried to gain positions and instead they lost it, I think that we have a lucky night, especially a very, very lucky night.
Well, you know what they say about luck, and that is that you create your own luck in this world. And Bruno, you certainly did that. In terms of moving through the later stages of the race, talk about what happened between you and Victor Oliveira when it came to the first chicane.
Well, during the race, I had some interested races with Willem, number 30, and I lost some time. Lapping down some pilots, and Oliveira approached for me, and in the chicane, I think that in a good way and a gentleman way, none of us give it up from the position or from the side of the track, and the avoidable contact was, well, it is what it is. I tried to recover. I had it after a nice pass with Reed. Difficult a lot, the passing. And I tried to gain again time to Oliveira, but a P8 in a certain moment of the race, I think that this is a long championship and we do not need to risk a very good position after such difficult race. And I thought, well, Oliveira, he has an honest P7, and let's keep the P8. It's already very good, because in fact it was a very, very difficult, sleepy track, sleepy car, and especially too much accidents in the track.
Well, you move from one track here at Lime Rock Park over to Alton Park as your next port of call in 2 weeks. So 2 weeks to try and understand this car and understand the circuit. What are your prospects at Alton Park? Is this a circuit that you like? Is this a circuit that you're trying to go out there and try and really muster and master?
No, Alton is one of my favorite. Tracks. I do not want to make some race previews because it can give us bad luck. But Alton, has so much interest as Lime Rock, as Technic, because we have an interest spots where it's difficult to pass, but we can, if we are very intelligent in the approach of the corner and the way out, maybe we can benefit from the grip of the draft after 2-3 laps with the rubber in the tarmac. I think it's a very interesting track, very, very dangerous because the corners and the proximity of the tarmac and the grass. And after the fields, Alton is very easy to ride in an open field and after difficult to come to the track. But I think we must be very cautious and especially very prudent.
Well, I'm sure that you will go out there and show your level best here, Bruno. So before we let you go, is there anyone you'd like to thank getting that 8th place finish here today, a gain of 9 over the course of this race?
I think that my best words must go to the top 3, especially Pedro Marimon. He's showing us that he's a very good driver. He's making a good championship, in the beginning some difficult. And a special word to Willem, Oliveira and Reed, because they give it us and to our viewers a very good show tonight, driving and fighting very honestly in our Sunday Mazda drivers. And thank you also to you and to all of our viewers. And see you next week, not next week, in 15 days, sorry.
Yeah, no worries at all then. Bruno Albino joining us there overall, 8th position overall in this race. And Ossian, I believe you have the final driver with us, and that is 3rd place overall, Pedro Marimon.
Yes, indeed. Pedro Marimon there started 14th, ended up in the podium. It was a chaotic first lap, but your driving and the fights that you had to reach that podium, absolute masterclass of driving. How do you feel?
Thanks. My first podium in this league. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you.
So you started in the mid pack. What went through your mind in that first corner, in that first lap when you saw just about everybody going off, just trying to find your way through, a bit of panic? Did you ever have time to realize that you're going to be way up higher than you expected?
Yeah, with the new tire model, you have to get started a little bit more, not so quickly, because the tires are too cold. Always there are someone who want to win in the first corner, and you have to have one feet in the pedal, you know. On the brake.
Yeah, you have to be so careful in the first lap. It feels like driving on ice, and trust me, I'm from Finland. I know what that is like. So after that, well, it wasn't over yet. I mean, it got easier in terms of grip, but absolutely not in terms of fighting. You had an amazing battle with Sander Vare and with Brett Reiter as well involved in that one. So tell us, how did it feel to drive against these guys? Was it more pressure racing somebody than usual when you knew it was for a podium position?
Yeah, the tow, I think is the most important in this track, because with the tow, I think Brett were 1 second behind us and was losing time, and I can fight with Sander in these laps, but I think it's this. The tow is maintaining the tow is the most important with these cars and the track.
Yeah, the draft certainly plays an important role. Well, Pedro, hey, I mean, it's your first podium. Congratulations, man. Must feel amazing. I'll let you go and enjoy that, but before that, if you want to say hi to your friends or anyone you would like to thank you, feel free to do so. It's your first podium. Let's celebrate.
Okay, thank you all.
Thank you, Pedro, for the interview, and congratulations once more. And Jake, with that, in a happy mood, I think we are heading towards the sunset of our broadcast.
I think we very much are, and what incredible racing we've had the opportunity to get to. And I'd just like to take a moment to thank everyone who's been working hard on this one, from, of course, Ossian, Ryan, and Dougie as well. Here are all of our social media handles that you can get a contact with us at the Global SimRacing Channel. Of course, if you haven't already on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, keep yourself up to date with all of the broadcasts that come through with us at the Global SimRacing Channel. You can follow us at Facebook, on Twitter, on Twitch, and of course you can join the Discord as well, even if you are a fan as well. As keep an eye on our Instagram as well as our store envy as well for any merchandise that you may want. Massive thanks also has to go to the products and equipments that help bring our broadcast together, especially to June Lalonde's music. Her stuff is incredible. You can catch that on Bandcamp. And to finish things off, we've got all sorts of amazing racing action coming up. So make sure when it comes across the screen that you keep an eye out on what is coming up next here with us, because next time out, 2 weeks away, we'll be heading to round 17 and to Alton Park. So make sure that you check that out for what is some incredible racing action. and of course for what's coming up next in terms of broadcasting, which will be the Porsche Driver Owners Club, and that will be coming along from Laguna Seca. The WeatherTech Raceway is going to hold itself another incredible race. Until next time, though, ladies and gentlemen, you can race clean, you can race hard, and we will see you on the track.